Hey guys, Krista Watson here from Krista Quilts, back with more machine quilting fun. Today we're going to focus on two designs that can actually be quilted either with a walking foot or free motion. These are single zigzags and double zigzags. Now in the video today, I'm showing you how I quilt it with the walking foot because I think it's actually easier to do. But no matter which way you quilt them, you can find the designs in my book, 99 Machine Quilting Designs. So let's get started. In this episode, I'll show you how to quilt design number 9 from the book called Zigzags, and then design number 10, double zigzags. First, let's sketch them out, and then we'll quilt them. So for some walking foot single zigzags, I am going to start at the top of my sample, and they're going to represent the seam lines on my quilt. So I'm going to just go back and forth, starting and ending in any direction, pivoting as I go, as I stitch each set. So I can do a couple of single sets, or if I wanted to, I could do 2 passes across the design to do a double zigzag. So here's my first pass, and then my second pass, I can start at the top again and go down to the bottom. But depending on my design and how I want to quilt it, there's another way I can do it. I can start off with my single zigzag just like before, and then I can actually work my way back up by rotating. So really, it's just going to depend on how you're quilting your quilt. Single zigzags is one of those really cool walking foot quilting designs where you can start customizing your quilting a little bit. And what I mean by that is rather than just stitching an edge-to-edge design, regardless of what the pieced quilt top looks like, you're now going to be stitching specific designs in different areas of the quilts. So what I like to do for this design is I have drawn out a series of straight lines which represent the seam lines on my quilt, and I'm going to stitch a series of single zigzags from edge to edge or point to point in those seam lines. The important part here is that I'm not trying to make them regular and even. I'm letting them be a little more organic. Whenever I get to one diagonal of the zigzag, I stop with the needle down, rotate the quilt just a little bit, and I keep on going. For the double zigzags, I have a couple of options. One option is that I can just stitch across my previous single zigzag design, and then it creates kind of like a harlequin look. I can also overlap it and offset it so that it doesn't look like the peaks and valleys are matching up. With this design, whether it's a single zigzag or a double zigzag, you've really got a lot of flexibility. The lines can all be the same length, or some of the lines can be longer and some can be shorter. You can kind of just give in to whimsy and have every zigzag be different, or you can have them be more uniform. But the basic idea is you're stitching in a diagonal across from one point to the other, rotating and then stitching back. You can do as many zigs and zags as you like, and like many of the other designs, you can make them larger, smaller, narrower, wider, depending on how you start and stop the design. Now in this additional sample piece, I quilted a couple of additional ideas for the double zigzags. Instead of quilting 2 single zigzags individually, I actually stitched 1 row of zigzags, pivoted, and then went back in the opposite direction. For single zigzags, you can echo your previous line of stitching for a fun variation. So that's how I like to quilt single zigzags and double zigzags. As you can see, there's quite a few variations that you can do. One variation is on this quilt behind me that I call my modern jelly roll quilt. Basically, I'm trying to draw attention to those really fun pre-cut strips. So I used the double zigzag design and I quilted it in every other row of this design. Now I did something simpler in another pattern, but instead I quilted single zigzags in every main area of the quilt. Both of these two patterns patterns can be found in my book, Piece and Quilt with Precuts. Recently, I put together a fun little project that's a free pattern called Modern Table Runner. In this pattern, I've shown a mini table runner quilt that you can actually do, combining those double zigzags, again, with another straight line design. So be sure to take a look at that free pattern, along with links to my books and all the other tidbits I like to share with you. Be sure to join me for the next one, where we're going to have more machine quilting fun.